warmly by the monk, seated in a simple, serene setting, surrounded by nature. There is someone arriving tomorrow. You've never met him before, not truly, but your soul may already know. And his arrival? It isn't by accident. In fact, it's not really about him at all. It's about what he brings: a choice, a truth, and a mirror to your own life. You see, in our journey as human beings, we often imagine that life is happening around us. Events occur, people pass by, and we simply respond. But I have come to understand that life is not just happening around us. Life is happening for us, and often through us. I remember many years ago in a quiet mountain monastery, an elder monk once said to me, "When a stranger appears, the soul listens more carefully than the ears ever could." I didn't understand him at first, but then one day a traveler arrived. He wasn't what I expected. He was noisy, restless, asking many questions, speaking in riddles. Some monks found him annoying. But one evening, by the river, he said something that changed the course of my life. He said, "I was sent here not to teach, but to awaken something in someone." I didn't realize until months later that someone was me. And so I ask you, who is arriving in your life now? Perhaps not physically, but energetically, spiritually, emotionally? Who or what is knocking at the door of your awareness? It may come as a person, yes. But it might also come as a question. A decision you've been delaying. A truth you've been afraid to face. A new path you've hesitated to walk. This visitor, this man, represents more than flesh and bone. He is the embodiment of change, of choice, of awakening, and his purpose? It involves you, because you, my dear listener, are at a crossroads whether you know it or not. Let me explain. Most people live as if they will never die, and then they die having never truly lived. This man, this symbolic visitor, comes with a reminder. You do not have forever. You have this moment, and you have the quiet wisdom within you that's been whispering. Make the decision. Begin the thing. Let go of what no longer serves. But why is it so hard? Because the mind loves comfort. Even when comfort is painful, even when it's a cage, the familiar can feel safer than freedom. But here's a truth from the ancient texts we studied in silence. The path is not always peaceful, but it is always purposeful. Now let's pause, just for a breath. Breathe in with me and breathe out. Feel the weight of the day leaving your shoulders. That man coming tomorrow. He's not here to disrupt your life. He's here to reveal it, to draw attention to the part of you that's ready to grow, evolve, or perhaps finally surrender. And maybe you don't need to do anything drastic. Maybe you just need to sit and listen, like you're doing now, because listening is an act of courage. And silence. Silence is where we meet the truth we've been avoiding. In my own journey, I've met many who arrived as unexpected messengers. Some came in the form of a tearful child asking why people lie. Some came as an angry man blaming the world for his pain. Some came as a dying woman whispering, "I wish I had followed my heart." Each one delivered a message I was ready to hear, even if I didn't know it at the time. So, tomorrow, this man, whether real or symbolic, is coming. And with him, a moment of choice. But before we speak of what that decision might be, let us first look more deeply into what's already waiting within you, because perhaps, just perhaps, it isn't him who's arriving, it's you, the version of you that has waited patiently to be seen, the part of you that already knows the next step. The quiet voice within that's been buried beneath noise, fear, and hesitation. And tomorrow, that version of you may no longer wait. Let's continue this journey together. There is much to uncover. Let's sit together a little longer. If you've stayed with me this far, then your heart is already awakening. Even if gently, even if quietly. That means you are ready for what's next, even if your mind still tries to convince you otherwise. Let me ask you something simple. When was the last time you were fully present with a moment? Not thinking of tomorrow, not worrying about yesterday, but fully here. You see, we spend so much of our lives living in memories and projections. Our minds are like busy marketplaces, full of noise, full of distractions, full of people shouting for our attention. But the truth? Most of the answers we seek do not come from thinking harder. They come from stilling the mind, not stirring it. When that man arrives tomorrow, and he will in one form or another, he won't be asking what degrees you hold, how much money you've earned, or what title you wear on your chest. He will ask you something far more profound. Have you lived true to yourself? Did you follow the inner tug that said, "This is who I am, this is what I must do, this is what I must become"? There's an old teaching we used to repeat during morning meditations. Every day, you are being offered 2 invitations. One from fear and one from truth. And here's the secret. Fear will disguise itself as logic. It will say, be careful, wait a little longer, maybe now isn't the right time. But truth? Truth rarely shouts. It doesn't force itself into your thoughts. It whispers. It lives in the spaces between your busyness, in the silence between breaths, in the flicker of intuition that comes and goes before the noise returns. This man, arriving tomorrow, may be carrying your invitation to truth. But will you open it? Let me tell you another story. Years ago, there was a monk named Saran, a gentleman with a quiet smile and a mind filled with endless questions. He often asked our teacher, "Master, how will I know what I'm meant to do?" And the teacher, a wise old monk with eyes that had seen much suffering and much peace, answered simply, "You will know when the cost of not doing it becomes greater than the fear of beginning." Saran didn't understand that at first. He kept waiting for a sign, a lightning bolt, a voice from the heavens, a perfect roadmap. But signs rarely look like signs when we're waiting for certainty. They often arrive looking like interruptions, like accidents, like ordinary people saying extraordinary things. Then, one day, Saran was assigned to care for an old sick man visiting the temple. The man barely spoke, was bitter, angry, even cruel at times. Saran wanted to avoid him, but duty called. As the days passed, the sick man's anger began to melt. He spoke of regrets, of a family he'd abandoned, of love he never had the courage to express. And before he passed away, he looked at Saran with tears in his eyes and said, "Live while you can. Don't wait until you have to beg time for another chance." Saran didn't need any other sign. That moment, raw, painful, real, was the invitation. From that day, Saran stopped asking what he was meant to do. He began to live from a place of honesty and purpose. He became one of the wisest men I've known, and you, dear soul, are no different. The signs are already here. They've always been. You just need to become still enough to see them, and perhaps the arrival of this man tomorrow is less about a person, and more about a moment that's coming, a conversation that will crack open your old way of thinking, a feeling you can't ignore anymore, a decision, long overdue, that you finally take. We cannot keep waiting for the perfect time. The perfect time is a myth. The perfect time is now, not because it's easy, but because you're listening, because you're present, because something in you knows. This message is meant for you. Let's be clear. Transformation does not happen in the light of clarity. It begins in the darkness of uncertainty, when everything feels foggy, when all you have is faith, breath, and a trembling hand reaching forward. But I promise you, beyond the fear is freedom, and beyond the hesitation is peace. Now, before we continue, I want you to pause again with me. Place your hand over your heart. Close your eyes for just a moment, and ask yourself gently, quietly, what is the decision I've been avoiding? Let it arise without judgment. Just let it appear, like a leaf floating to the surface of a still pond. You don't need to act on it yet. Just see it. Just feel the truth of it. Because tomorrow, when the man arrives, you may no longer be able to ignore it. Thank you for walking with me this far. There is more to uncover. We will speak of how to face this decision and how to know you are not alone in it. when we continue. The conversation is not over. It is just beginning. Welcome back. You are still here. That means something very important. You are not running from the truth anymore. You're beginning to turn toward it, even if just slightly. And that in itself is a sacred act. You've heard me speak about this man, this symbolic arrival, and the decision he carries with him. But now, let us go deeper still. Because the true decision is not between this or that. It is between living asleep and living awake. Let me explain. Many people move through life like they're underwater. They see the light above, they even move toward it, but they never quite rise to the surface. They remain submerged in patterns they don't question, roles they didn't choose, and stories they didn't write. But awakening? Awakening is the moment you remember, I can breathe above this, that I do not have to carry what was handed down to me if it no longer fits who I am becoming. So when this visitor, the man who symbolizes the shift, the crossroad, arrives, you may not recognize him right away. He may look like a challenge. He may sound like a hard conversation. He may even feel like loss. But understand this, not all things that break your heart are trying to destroy you. Some are trying to wake you up. I learned this truth painfully. There was a time in my life, long before I became a monk, when I was in love with the idea of control. I wanted to know how every chapter of my life would go. I had my plans, my timelines, my expectations all carefully lined up like lanterns on a path, and then life took them away. One after the other. A relationship ended. A job I thought I needed fell through. A family member passed unexpectedly. Everything I thought I needed was stripped away. And for a while, I was angry. I thought life had betrayed me, but in that emptiness, I discovered silence. And in that silence, I discovered my soul, not the one others had defined, not the version shaped by performance and pleasing, but the real one, raw, honest, uncertain, and full of possibility. And that's when I truly began living. So when I speak to you about a man arriving, I am also speaking about a moment like that. A moment that may unsettle you at first. A moment that may shake you. But within it, a sacred doorway appears, the door to your next self. Now you might be asking, how do I know if this is my moment? The answer is simple but not easy. You'll know because it feels uncomfortable. You'll know because it challenges. What you thought was certain, you'll know because it asks you to let go of who you were, for who you might become. And still, even in that uncertainty, you will feel a quiet knowing, a pull, a tug in your spirit. That is your soul's whisper. That is your truth calling. Let us pause here again, just briefly. Take a breath. In. Hold it gently. And now exhale slowly. Feel your body grounded. Let the words land where they may. Now let me tell you something you may need to hear. You do not have to have it all figured out to begin. The fear of making the wrong decision often keeps people from making any decision. But what if there are no wrong decisions? Only roads that lead you to different lessons. That man, the one arriving tomorrow, he is not your answer. He is a mirror, and what he reflects will depend on how willing you are to see yourself as you truly are. Some of you watching may feel like you're standing on the edge of something big, something irreversible. A career shift, a relationship ending, a move, a loss, a calling you can no longer silence, and maybe you've been waiting for someone to say, it's okay to begin. So let me be the one to say it. It's okay to begin. It's okay to not know how it ends. It's okay to step into something that scares you if you know it's where your soul feels alive. You are not late. You are not lost. You are not broken. You are simply being called inward and before you step outward again. This visitor, Imam, this arriving force, is just a guide. But the real journey, the real transformation, it begins with you. And tomorrow, when he arrives, when that moment comes, you will remember these words. You will remember that you were prepared because you listened. because you reflected, because you stayed with me here, in this sacred silence. Let us continue again soon. In the next part, we will explore how to recognize your intuition from your fear, and how to walk your path, even when the world doesn't understand it. You are not alone. We are walking this path together. It is early now. The world is quiet. And there is something sacred about this in-between hour. The time between night and morning, between what was and what will be, between the known and the mystery. This is the space where transformation begins, not loudly, not with fanfare, but with the softest stirring in the soul. A voice that says, "This can no longer wait." In our last conversation, I spoke of the visitor, the man arriving tomorrow. We spoke of how he is not only a figure, but a metaphor, a symbol of a shift, an internal messenger carrying the question that your life has been waiting to ask you. But here is the next step. How do you recognize truth from fear? How do you know if what you feel is your intuition or simply anxiety? In disguise? This is one of the great spiritual puzzles. Even monks wrestle with it in their quiet moments. But let me share with you what I have learned. Fear rushes. Intuition whispers. Fear demands urgency. Intuition offers clarity. Fear creates pressure. Intuition creates presence. You will notice that fear feels like a tightening, a pressure in your chest, a quickening of the breath, a racing of thoughts. It wants you to react now, without reflection. But intuition feels like stillness, like a deep breath beneath the chaos, like the sound of a bell echoing long after it's rung. When that man arrives, when your moment of decision meets, you face to face, listen not just with your mind, but with your body. Where do you feel peace? Where do you feel tension? The body doesn't lie, the spirit doesn't shout, but both are always trying to guide you when you slow down enough to listen. There's a story I want to share, one I don't tell often. It was my second year in the monastery. I was struggling with a decision that seemed small on the surface but felt enormous inside. I had been asked to leave the comfort of our temple to assist in a remote village for many months, a place where resources were limited and the people deeply wounded by years of hardship. My fear said, "You will be forgotten." My fear said, "You are not ready." My fear said, "Let someone more experienced go." But my intuition said nothing. It only showed me the face of an old woman I'd seen once, weathered, quiet, and broken-hearted. I had passed her during a journey with my teacher. She said nothing to me then, but her eyes had stayed with me. I saw her again in my dreams, over and over. And that was it. No dramatic sign, no heavenly voice. Just her. A silent face. A symbol of the suffering I was being called to serve, so I said yes. Not because I felt brave, but because I knew the invitation was not about my comfort. It was about my becoming. I spent 8 months there. I saw pain and beauty in ways I never could have imagined. And one evening, as I helped carry water up a steep path, I passed her again, the old woman from the dream. She looked at me and smiled. No words, just a knowing, just peace. That was when I learned, your soul already knows your path. You only need to quiet the noise long enough to remember. I ask you again, as tomorrow nears, as your moment approaches, what is trying to get your attention? What have you silenced for too long? Do not wait for a perfect sign. The path does not light up in full. It appears one step at a time, only when you begin to walk it. Let's return to this. The man is not coming to change you. He's coming to reveal you, to invite you into alignment with the truth you already carry inside. And when he arrives, through conversation, through pain, through a moment you never expected, you will recognize him not by how he looks, but by how he awakens something dormant in you. He may shake your world. He may bring discomfort. He may be misunderstood by others. But remember, the path of truth rarely comes with the approval of the crowd. It is walked alone until your courage becomes your companion. It is walked in the dark until your faith becomes your light. And eventually that faith becomes so bright. You begin to light the way for others. This is what tomorrow is about. This is the decision that is coming. So tonight, before the visitor comes, make space for yourself. Turn off the distractions. Silence the noise. Sit in stillness and ask, what part of me is ready to rise? What part of me is ready to let go? And listen, not for answers, but for the quiet truth that begins to hum like a song you once knew but forgot. You are being remembered by your own soul. You are being returned to your own beginning. And I am walking with you every step of the way. In the next part, we will speak of how to walk forward, even when fear follows close behind. We will speak of the courage required to choose your truth, even when no one understands it. But for now, just rest in this moment. Be here, with yourself, with the knowing that something beautiful is on its way, not from the outside, but from within. You are still here. You've walked with me through the stillness of night, through the quiet hours of uncertainty, through stories and silence, through the tug of fear and the nudge of intuition. And now, the sun is fully risen. The light has returned. And you are standing at the edge of your next choice. So let's not delay. Let us speak plainly now. There is something you've been avoiding, a truth, a decision, a knowing that keeps calling your name. And maybe you've justified the delay. I'm too busy. It's not the right time. What if I fail? What will they say? But the deeper truth is, you're afraid. Not of failure, no. But of who you will become if you actually say yes to the life you truly want. Because once you say yes, there's no going back to pretending. Once you know, you can't unknow. And that awareness comes with responsibility. But let me tell you this from experience. Avoiding your truth hurts more than facing it. I've seen people with everything. Wealth, reputation, success. Look me in the eye and confess that they feel hollow. Why? Because their life became a performance, a perfectly executed illusion. But when the applause fades, and the lights go out, and no one's watching, their soul aches for something real. That's what you're being called to today. Something real, not easy, not convenient, not even glamorous, but real authenticity, alignment, awakening, and yes. It costs you. It will cost you comfort. It may cost you approval. It may cost you relationships that were built on the version of you who was playing small. But what you gain is everything. Your integrity, your wholeness, your peace. You. Begin to wake up each day not with dread or numbness, but with a quiet fire inside your chest. A sense that you are exactly where you need to be. No longer proving. No longer chasing. Just being. Fully, powerfully, truthfully you. That is worth every ounce of fear you must walk through to get there. So now let me ask you, honestly, what decision is life waiting for you to make? Is it the decision to forgive someone, not because they deserve it, but because you deserve peace? Is it the decision to leave a situation that is draining your soul? Is it the decision to finally pursue the path that calls to you, even if you don't know where it leads? Or is it simply the decision to begin, to stop running, and to sit with yourself long enough to hear what your heart has been whispering all along? Because that whisper, that gentle truth, that is the man arriving tomorrow. That is the visitor. That is the moment. He is not a stranger. He is not outside of you. He is you, evolved. He is the version of you that you will meet on the other side of the decision you're afraid to make. And when he arrives, you will remember this conversation. You will remember that you were not alone. You will remember that you were being prepared. You will remember that nothing was wasted. Not your pain, not your delays, not your confusion. It all brought you here, to this doorway, to this decision, to this awakening. And now, the question is not, will he arrive? The question is, will you welcome him? Will you open the door when your life knocks? Will you say yes to the unfamiliar because your soul is tired of the familiar that no longer fits? If your answer is yes, then everything changes. Not instantly, not dramatically, but deeply. And over time, you'll look back and say, that was the moment I stopped sleepwalking through life. That was the moment I finally came home to myself. And I will be here, still walking beside you in spirit, rooting for your wholeness, honoring your courage. You are not broken. You are becoming. Let us meet again, one last time, for the final reflection, to close this journey with the grace it deserves, to seal the wisdom with silence. And now, we have arrived. You've walked with me through the stillness of night, through the dawn of truth, through the quiet resistance, and the rising courage. We are no longer waiting for him to arrive. He is here, and the decision you never expected has already begun to unfold inside of you. It may not look like a dramatic turning point to others. It may come as a subtle shift, an inner alignment, a decision made in silence. But you will feel it in how you breathe, in how you carry your heart, in how you begin to trust your life again. Let me offer you one final story before we part ways. Many years ago, I sat with a dying man. He was not a monk, he was a businessman, wealthy, respected, accomplished. But as I held his hand, he said something I will never forget. I built a life that everyone admired, except for the part of me that truly mattered. He said he had lived by numbers, by goals, by the praise of others, but not once had he paused to ask, is this the life I was meant for? And as he neared the end, he asked me not for prayer, but for peace, not for comfort, but for meaning. He died that night with tears in his eyes, not from regret, but from the awakening that even in his final moments, he could choose truth. He chose to forgive. He chose to say, I love you to the people he had distanced for years. He chose to meet the man within himself that he had long abandoned. And in that choice, he was free. That is what I offer you now. Thy reminder that it is never too late, not to love again, not to begin again, not to return home to your soul. You see, we speak often of purpose as if it is some grand destination, but I have come to see that purpose is not what you do. Purpose is how you show up. Do you live with presence? Do you listen with love? Do you walk your path even when it's quiet and no one is clapping? If so, then you are fulfilling your purpose already. The man who arrives tomorrow is not your future self in some distant place. He is your true self, knocking gently at the door of today, waiting for your permission to enter. So open the door, not with fear, but with reverence, because when you say yes to the deeper truth, everything begins to change. The people you meet, the peace you feel, the way life begins to support you, because you are finally aligned with who you really are. So let this be your moment, right here, right now. Place your hand on your heart, close your eyes, and whisper, if only to yourself, I am ready. I am willing. I welcome what is next. Not because you know what it is, but because you trust that your soul does. And that is what makes all the difference. You were never alone. You were never lost. You were only waiting for your return. May you walk forward now with grace, with courage, and with love, and when tomorrow arrives, welcome him with open arms, for he is not a stranger. He is you, finally awakened.